So there's been a lot of talk when it comes to Patrick Peterson about is he washed up? And personally, I think no, but I do think that he isn't quite as good as he once was. I do think I have seen a decline in play. I still think he's a very valuable asset to have on the field though. So let me just explain what I mean. And to do that, first I'm going to talk about where I've seen a decline in his play, and then I'll talk about what I think he is doing still just as good as ever, if not even better than ever. So first, the decline, and we'll start off with this one. This is a play I'm sure Arizona Cardinals fans remember greatly. This is in, their best game of the season, at least their most fun game of the season, the Hail Murray game. But what happened right before that is something that you can't forget as well. It's a cover one blitz play, meaning that there's one safety deep, everyone else has man coverage, so the safety can only cover the middle of the field. Diggs is running a route that's going to get towards the side, and he's going up one-on-one against Peterson. So those are the two key players in this play. Stephon Diggs and Patrick Peterson. Peterson is the one circled in white. While Diggs is a great route runner, he's not going to really rely on that on this play. He's just going to try and blow by Peterson, which is something you could never do when Peterson was 27. You wouldn't even think about it because Peterson's a guy who ran a 4.3 40-yard dash. And as you see, Diggs is able to get by Peterson just using speed. It was also a perfect throw from Allen. It wasn't terrible coverage, but again, Diggs was able to beat Peterson through speed, which is something you wouldn't see happen to Peterson of old. Again, that's Stephon Diggs, but Peterson is going up against number one receivers, and so you have seen him get beat by some of the game's best, where in the past, you wouldn't see that as much, although with a cornerback, you're always going to get beat at some point. It's just about not getting beat as often. One real area I've seen him struggle is in the first step. You look at most of his big plays he's given up this season, it's been in that first step that he's lost, which oftentimes that is where you lose the play, is in the first step. Like on this one, it's same concept, and this time he's all the way on the side, so outside the numbers, meaning that he truly is on an island here against DK Metcalf running a go route while he's in press coverage. So this is, it doesn't get more difficult than what it is right now. This is the highest degree of difficulty type play that you'll have to see all season. On an island in press coverage against one of the game's best at running go routes. It's very difficult, but watch what he does to really make it more difficult on himself. Metcalf's going to make a move here, but look at how Peterson kind of just naturally shifts further to Metcalf's left, which is towards the top of the screen. I just think that's kind of a bit of a mistake. It's not great positioning right here. But the thing is, Peterson could do this in the past, get to one side, and if he's fooled, he would have the speed to sort of get back into the play and make it a very difficult catch on the receiver. The problem is, 5 years ago, Peterson was as fast as even the fastest receivers. This year, he's maybe not as fast as DK Metcalf is. Metcalf just blows by him, and there's just a ton of separation by the time he makes the grab, and you would never see that happen with the older Peterson. So I do think there is a small decline in play. I don't think it's huge, but I do think it is there. This one's another one. It's a similar coverage. It's still man coverage. This time Peterson is going up one-on-one against Terry McLaurin, who's running a slant route here. So, again, going up against a really good receiver who's running their bread and butter route, that's not very easy. The one slight advantage Peterson has this time is he has more help over the middle, and this is a route running over the middle. A linebacker is going to drop back into coverage. It's a cover one hole as opposed to a straight up cover one blitz, meaning that there definitely is something getting taken away over the middle of the field. Again, watch the first step, and watch how Peterson, he's bailing here, which is what Peterson likes to do. Because he is so quick, he's fine with bailing, and because he has such good footwork, in the past, he would have no problem of just sort of being able to move on a spot. He is that kind of guy who can move on a dime and change his direction while still going at a top speed with the best of them. But there's a couple things to look at here. For one, a linebacker is covering away from Peterson, so he's basically, again, on an island, Peterson is. But with this space, now McLaurin has the opportunity to cut in front, and there is going to be a pretty easy window for Dwayne Haskins to make this throw. But that in itself isn't the end of the world. Gain a few yards, even if the catch is made. Peterson could maybe get his hand in there and knock it down. But if not, then it's a 4-yard gain, 5-yard gain. That's not the end of the world. But as you see, watch the speed. McLaurin is able to just outrun Peterson even while having to look back and make a grab. So, again, it's just one of those things. I don't want to compare him to the previous Patrick Peterson too much, but previous Patrick Peterson at most gives up a 5-yard gain on that one. That's just what happens. One interesting thing about Peterson is that I do feel like he has used contact a little bit more to try and help himself now that he's gone from being up there with the fastest players in the NFL to still pretty fast, but just can get beat with speed. I feel like he's created a lot of contact this season, and statistically that isn't true because he has 7 penalties this year, and in the past he had a year where he committed 13 penalties in one season. So he's always been a high penalty guy, but I feel like he's kind of using the contact maybe a little bit differently this year than he has in past years. Like on this one, it's a one-on-one matchup. McLaurin's running a deep route, so very similar to the big catch that Metcalf had earlier that I showed you. And watch what Peterson is going to do. So Metcalf gets to the inside, and you see Peterson, he kind of is in that similar spot where in the past I feel like he just turns his shoulders and runs. But now you see him reach out and try to create some contact, which you create a little bit of contact, it can work. You do have to be careful here and definitely don't make it obvious because you will get a flag. But Peterson makes this one way too obvious and does draw that flag. Doesn't commit a big play, but also there's a 5-yard penalty. It didn't matter because there was a first down anyways on that play. So, it was a moot point. But that's just something that you don't want to see happen if you're Patrick Peterson. I mean, you would like to see Peterson not commit that penalty. Like this one's another one. It's zone coverage this time, but there's going to be a play action with Diggs running over in the middle. So even though it looks like there's going to be a lot of help, for Peterson, there might not be that much. Once this play starts, Diggs is cutting into the inside, and Diggs actually kind of initiated this contact. Peterson was in good position, so really Diggs kind of had to run through Peterson. So at this point, really, I mean, Diggs initiated this contact, but you have to remember, when you're a defensive back, you're playing a rigged game, and the rules are set to help the wide receivers. So Diggs can create a little bit of contact here, but if you hold him, you're going to get a penalty. That's just what's going to happen. As you see, Peterson holds him and does get the penalty, and Diggs was able to then push off because after the hold, it almost gives the wide receiver free range to commit a penalty because they won't call that. And so with that, Allen hits Diggs. They get a first down there. And again, that's the kind of thing you'd kind of like to see Peterson, who's really good at using footwork to his advantage, to just run and not allow much separation. It just didn't happen there. But I don't think it's the end of the world. There are some flaws. I don't think any of them are massive, and he's still a really good corner. In my opinion, he's still a true number 1 corner. I just don't think he's elite anymore. If you're just looking for the negatives, you can find negatives. But if you're looking for the positives, you'll see some of the best plays a defensive back will make all season on just about any game with Peterson. Like, take a look at this one. So this is going to be a cover 1 robber concept, and Peterson is in the white circle. He's covering Diggs, who's running a route crossing over the middle. Once this play starts, watch what Peterson's going to do here. So notice how he's kind of drifting off of Diggs here. He's switching, is what they call this, where you have a safety over the middle of the field. Typically, you would just have the safety stay there and Peterson covers Diggs the whole time, but that wouldn't really be that smart, would it? Because you can just do this and switch, and now the safety is going to go over, and he's going to take away Diggs' route, and since you know what kind of route Diggs is running, you now know that the safety who is further towards the sideline on the top of the screen than Peterson is, it kind of turns a disadvantage into an advantage just like that, and for Peterson, now his job is just to cover the middle of the field. However, you notice I've circled something else here, the yellow circle. That's a Buffalo player who looks like he could get open. He's in a pretty good route right here, and that's kind of the disadvantage of the switch, is that for the player who's covering the middle of the field, it's just really difficult. I mean, think about it. If you're a corner, the first half of the play you're spending just looking at Diggs, and now all of a sudden you realize I'm going to try and cover the middle of the field. It's hard to know exactly what's happening, but Peterson's just a really high football IQ guy. He notices that route and cuts it off, gets in front of it, and it's a low throw. Peterson wasn't able to hang on, and he hits his hand on the ground because he's annoyed at himself, but he shouldn't be annoyed because that's an incredible play that he just wasn't quite able to finish, and more often than not, he does finish those. This one's another great one. It's again man coverage. It's a cover 1 blitz play, and for Buffalo, they have a couple of routes that you're going to want to take a look at. The first of which is the one that Peterson is covering. Peterson is circled in white, and you notice there are 2 players covering Stephon Diggs. Diggs is getting double teamed here, which makes sense. I mean, Diggs has really been a great receiver for his entire career, but especially since coming over to Buffalo, so they're making an extra effort to take him out of the play. So once this play starts, you notice Peterson's doing a pretty good job, I think, of staying in position where, again, they're using the double team well. One is covering underneath, the other is covering further deep. So Allen, he just knows, I mean, that's just a difficult throw to make. He's going to instead throw it to the player who I've circled just a little bit over Peterson, because that is an opening. There definitely is a window there for Cole Beasley, so he's going to try and make that throw. And I almost wonder if Diggs' route was supposed to stop a little bit shorter, because it seems like these routes are much closer to each other. But what's amazing about this play is Peterson somehow realizes that Josh Allen is going to make this throw. He somehow reads this, which is just incredible. Watch how he gets off Diggs and is able to go over and make that interception. I mean, that's an incredible play. You don't see that happen very often. So yeah, I mean, what do I think about Peterson? I think he is the kind of guy who he's shown now he can get beat by the best of the best. You know, in the past, he was the kind of guy where he would beat the best of the best. Not anymore. The guy is almost 31 now. It's not that surprising that he has maybe lost a step, but at the same time, his lost a step is really not that bad. He currently is giving up a passer rating this season of 97.0, which is the second worst passer rating he's ever given up. The worst was actually last year, so that's not ideal, but at the same time, a passer rating under 100 when he's going up against the receivers he's gone up against, that's not a disaster either. It's not as good as his typical 84.4 passer rating, but I think it should be noted that while yes, Peterson maybe isn't as good as he once was, what he once was a 3-time first-team All-Pro, which is the best corner in the game. He's not the best corner in the game anymore, but he's still really good, and I think his veteran presence actually adds a good amount to this Arizona defense that a lot of people don't realize. So yes, he is giving up more catches this year. He's giving up more yards this year. He's given up actually about the same amount of touchdowns this year. But for the most part, I think that he actually still, the good outweighs the bad for Peterson in a big way. I think he's still a number 1 guy. I would love him as a number 2, but he has to be a number 1 in Arizona. That's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.